Warning: World Weary Podcast occasionally discusses mature themes and uses colorful language.
Welcome to World Weary, a podcast of out of this world stories brought to you by two out of this world ladies. I'm the British one, Violet Starr.
I'm the American one, Cassiopeia Walker.
Rate, review, subscribe. We're on Instagram at World Weary Podcast. We're on Twitter. We have a website. We should, by the time this comes out. And you'll be able to find World Weary Podcast at all good podcast dispensaries. You've been a bit unwell this week?
I've been ill, and I'm a baby when I'm ill, so...
Yeah. I just started a new job this week.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say we're a little bit frazzled. A little bit low energy, but I think we're both pretty stoked to record this episode.
Yes.
So that's carrying us through. So each week, we take turns to pick a different extraordinary topic. And this week, it's my turn, so we are talking about curses. Curses, not swear words, although that is, a kind of curse in its own way. But we're talking serious curses. We're talking dark spells, hexes. I love the dictionary definition of a curse.
Oh, yeah.
A solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment.
I like that. Yeah, exactly. Sums it up.
Have you ever put a curse on anyone, Cassie?
Loads. Not even too long ago, because I consider myself a witch. Not too long ago, I put an itching curse on someone so that I just chanted and I just really hoped and believed, really out loud said, like, I curse you to itch around me. Anytime you see me or think about me, you'll itch and want to walk away. So I try, if I'm going to outright curse someone, I usually curse them to have an uncomfortable thing, because I don't want to actually hurt anybody. But if you get me that mad and I'm cursing you to itching curse, then maybe you gotta reevaluate what's going on. You put on curses?
I've been accused of cursing someone once.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean...
It was accidental.
I didn't really intend to. I didn't intend to curse them.
She jokingly cursed
someone and then
they begged her a few months later to take it away, because ever since she had said it, they had had misfortune after misfortune.
I have to be careful. I really do, with the things I say.
Yeah.
I have a kind of curse myself in that I have this uncanny ability to know certain things,
it's like
certain secrets, but only when I'm sort of thinking with my subconscious or something at the front of my head. When I'm just rambling away, I just say things.
An ability to somehow figure out an insecurity you have and exploit it without not even knowing about the insecurity. Like, for example...
Okay, the famous one that really hurts me to this day, because all of these things make me feel massive regret and shame but completely innocently, they came out of my mouth, these things. I was talking to an acquaintance, and we had been having a conversation at a party with, a whole bunch of people about what job we think they shouldn't ever do, or would be like the opposite job, the completely wrong job for them. And this guy next to me, I'd known him for quite a long time. We'd been to school together, but we weren't close at all. Like, I only, he was a friend of a friend kind of thing. So I only very occasionally got to talk to him. And people saying like, oh, you shouldn't be a lawyer or whatever. And with him, I was like, I can't imagine you being like a paramedic. Like, you wouldn't, this guy was like super stoner. He was always late for everything. I was like, you wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be able to drive the ambulance fast enough. You'd crash the ambulance, then you would, Anyway, he just like turned to me like heartbroken and he just said, I'm training towards becoming a paramedic. I just started. And I was like, I was like, oh no, like, did I somehow subconsciously know that and it had come out, or I don't know what I picked up on, but I felt so bad. But I was like, well, that's what I honestly think. I had no idea that you wanted to become a paramedic. Had been working towards it for years.
Now to be told by a complete, unbiased, almost stranger acquaintance that you'd be terrible at it. A smaller example is when you text messaged me this really good Korean lady shaver product for like fine areas like your face.
Lady shaver sounds like a bad word, Cassie.
Okay, it's what I call them. I don't know, what do you call them?
It was a small facial razor.
Okay.
I think.
And that morning, Violet had texted me that, but not 20 minutes before that, I had just noticed in the morning light 4 goat hairs on my chin that had come out of nowhere. One being almost like an inch long silver thing. I'm only 30, but I'm getting my mom's
The thing is, it's awful. I hate when this happens because then it sounds like I noticed that and I...
Yes! And so I texted her back.
Idea.
I texted her back like, oh, is that a hint? Because like I was sure now that she had seen it and
seen your goatee.
Hinting to me without saying it directly. But at the same time, I've been through this situation with Violet so many times. I knew.
You've seen me do it with complete strangers.
I knew that she didn't mean anything by it. It's just her picking up on the universe's stuff.
It's the nearest thing I have to a psychic power.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm distracted.
She texted me a helpful thing because she probably picked up somewhere that I was concerned about this goat chin. What am I going to do about it? And boom, Violet's like, here's a recommendation for a face shaver.
I love them because that sort of peach fuzz thing, which everybody gets pretty much. But it does sometimes kind of get in the way of having a really, really smooth makeup. So that's why I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
You gotta keep those beards trimmed back.
Yeah, I gotta,
Superfluous hairs. It's absolutely natural.
Got it everywhere.
I think in that sense we've kind of put spells upon people or...
Oh, yeah.
Had some interaction with... some cursing. I mean, when we went to that party recently, you were invited to put a spell on someone.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't you? Didn't someone ask you to put a spell on
yeah. That's right. They wanted me to help curse a former boss of theirs.
Oh.
They basically bullied them out of the workplace. All the, it's like the one dude, little man syndrome kind of guy. And it's a lot of women working there. And he's one of those people that will come up to you and try and micromanage everything you're doing. And these people she's been working there for 20 years. It's like an old farm shop. All the old ladies that work there know what they're doing. And this dude's been hired as a manager kind of thing. And he's like going in there trying to micromanage. And so she left because she couldn't handle it anymore. She couldn't handle being told how to like do basic mansplaining kind of stuff. And, yeah, she asked me to help curse them, and I'm seriously considering it. I don't need his hair.
We just need to star on our own...
You just need manifestation.
We need to star on our own 90s witch movie.
Oh, I love it.
Where you're like a cute secretary in the day, like a natural soaps company. Yeah. And then by night, you're out doing witchy things, getting paid like £20 to like put a curse on someone.
I will. Oh God, can I do a weird sidebar? Last night I discovered a place called Cameo online where celebrities of all sorts will send a special message if you pay them. It sounds like a good idea, right? And then the cringe levels. When you're getting like the guy from Motley Crue. Oh God, I can't remember his name. I know, but I'm not my dad. When you get these like rock stars and people who are like, it's all sorts of people, and they're just going like, hey, John, I heard about your surgery, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are really cute like that, but you can pay celebrities and shit, and they have to take time out of their day to make these shitty videos. I thought the Chong ones, Cheech and Chong.
Oh, right.
His ones were really cute. You could tell he did them all on the same day, because he's wearing the same t-shirt, and he's like, hey, man, don't get your dust wet. But it's horrifying. Some of them are from Internet Pets. And it's a woman narrating a cat's voice for a message to a fan.
Oh, man.
I started to, like, dig deeper. It's weird. It's weird. It made me hate life for a minute. That's why I'm so glad we're, because it's so weird. And I like the idea, but it's weird to me. These super serious or known for this or that celebrities, and they're all on it, and they've all got prices depending on how famous they are. Like a YouTuber will be around $40, and some crazy famous actor will be around $200, $250. They all have it, so they're all their managers and people have told them to do it. It's just a weird world we live in where you could get like Tom Cruise to send you a personal message for whatever money, where he's like, hey, and you can tell some of them are really good and you can tell they're present and they care, but some of them it's cringe levels of, I'm reading this and I hate you, give me your money. It was a cringe hole. Sorry, I just had to share that with you before I forgot.
That is one of the things that makes you query the human race a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it just made me feel world weary.
Well, that's what it's all about.
When you got Ozzy Osbourne, like, hey,
yeah.
Sorry,
great to read about your triple heart bypass. Cheers, then. It's like, oh.
Because I saw it by looking at James Mansfield's YouTube. She showed that she had a cameo. I was like, so what's this? It's cute for drag queens because it's like a good way for them to make some coin, you know.
It's quite below.
What is Jennifer Love Hewitt doing with it?
Yeah.
She's like, hi.
They must pay well.
Porn stars?
Oh, of course.
Like, that makes sense. It's like, hi, it's me, Stormy Daniels, just saying hi. But like, it was weird. When I saw comedians who made their whole life about how cool and anti-establishment they are. And then they're like, hey, Roger, you know, don't worry, happy Valentine's Day for you and the missus. She's purchased this for you. Like, oh! Sorry, that's so sidebar. And
people need to, that's not a very classy decision, is it?
It's weird. Fair enough, make your money, but some of these people are millionaires. And I'm like, what are you doing on your iPhone? Put it down.
Put it down, Tom Cruise. Put it down. Back to curses then.
Sorry.
It's good. It's all good. I don't know. I think we're pretty superstitious.
Yes.
I would say we are quite superstitious. I think...
Except when people get crazy about the Ouija board, like at my Halloween party, I was totally down with using it because I know how to use them and I know how to, you know, do it properly. But everyone suddenly became really superstitious.
It is surprising, you know, the things that make people like
all of a
freak
sudden,
out.
they're creeped.
Yeah, I feel I'm a lot more superstitious than some of my friends have been.
I still throw salt over my shoulder if I spill it. Lauren rolled her eyes at me and went, "Really?" I was like, "I've been doing this for years. I'm not going to stop on account of you. The devil's there."
The devil whispering in my ear. Yeah, I think it definitely seems to have a bigger impact if your family are quite old school and superstitious as well. Certainly my family have got some really old, like, English countryside superstitions. You know, it's like bad, my granny used to say it's bad luck if a bird crosses the threshold in your home. So if a bird comes in through the window, it means someone's going to die in the family, you know, stuff like that. So like she was always worried about a bird flying in through an open window. Or, you know, you shouldn't wear green because it's the colour of the fairies or the little folk. Cats and owls are witches in disguise. I've got a relative who feels that way. And I think also having, like for me, having lived with and been associated with the Romani Gypsy traveller community in the UK, like when I was a child, that slightly influenced my beliefs as well, I think. You know, especially in the idea of the power to curse and also the powers of like good luck amulets and spells and things like that. And I was talking to my mum about this recently, and she recalled back to that time talking to an old friend of hers who's a Romani Gypsy lady, who they were talking about a couple that they both knew who were separating and planning to divorce. And they were saying, oh, it's such a shame. I wish there was some way we could get them to see sense and stick it out together. And my mum's Romani Gypsy friend, she suggested that my mum get a rock or a certain kind of stone and sneakily place it in the couple's garden of their house. Because the idea is that would give my mum some control or influence on their relationship. To like maybe help them see sense and stay together. I don't think my mum actually took the advice.
No.
But, you know, it's hearing stories like that of like, oh, like so-and-so recommended that I put a stone in their garden and things like that because it, you know, they believe in some kind of power of like an amulet or you can put a spell on someone. So yeah, I think growing up with those kind of beliefs around me and those as being serious suggestions of things we could do to remedy our lives, hearing all those stories, I think naturally has made me kind of, I've got superstitions ingrained in me, you know. So because this is a special episode on curses, we're going to play a little game.
Oh no.
Kind of about, it's a little like...
Is the listener involved or is it just me?
It's just you. It's just you. So what I've done is I've made some little cards which have real curses on them.
Oh shit.
I've taken the curses from real archaeological finds, like cursed tablets or like ones inscribed in tombs. Or
do I get to
from
curse
historic
people and
folklore.
report back to people if it works?
So these are mostly adapted from like real Roman, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian like instances. So what I'm going to do is I will give you some scenarios.
Okay.
And I'd like you to pick the curse that you would like to place upon the offender in those scenarios.
Alright, so I get to have a look at the curses.
Yeah. Okay, you get to choose that. You can spread them all out and then you get to pick. So there's 6. I think there's 6. There's some.
Oh yeah. 3,
6,
4,
7?
5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Do I have to, can I look at them?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can look at them and you have to pick through them which one you'd like to apply to the scenario that I give you. Okay, do you want to read them?
Okay.
So the guys have got the idea of what's going on.
I kind of want to surprise them.
What should we surprise them?
Yeah.
Okay, surprise is better. Okay, tell me when you've had a little read.
Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick look. Okay, yeah, go ahead. We're ready.
Okay,
We're ready.
okay. Scenario number 1. You go to a party with your husband. Another guest that you don't know well makes several sly comments about your outfit and hairstyle. Later into the evening, they hit on your husband whilst giving you an evil smirk face from across the room.
Oh, I've been there.
What do you curse them with?
Okay. May you be accursed in your blood and eyes and every limb and even have all your intestines quite eaten away. I would totally feel that way as well. Like,
absolutely. That's quite an emotive scenario.
Say something
that I think we can all relate to. Okay, are you ready for scenario number 2?
I'm ready. I'm ready to curse.
Someone eats your special snack that you were saving in the fridge. And it's got to be something. It was a rare snack, not something you can just go out and buy. Like it was the last piece of like a delicious homemade pie or like a very expensive cake or something.
May the gods not accept any goods you offer, and may your heir never inherit.
Okay, scenario number 3. You're in a pub. A stupid drunk person has bumped into you a couple of times, but you've kind of brushed it off up until now.
Okay.
You buy a fresh pint of ale with the last of your money in your pocket, and as you walk away from the bar, the drunk guy falls into you, spilling your entire pint on the floor, and they do not offer to buy you another one.
Destroy, crush, kill, strangle you and your husband or wife. Wow, these are real archaeological stuff.
These are real ones. Real curses.
Oh, man.
Ancient curses.
There's still some good ones here.
Okay, scenario number 4. Someone steals your wallet.
I ask that the offender may lose their mind and eyes in the goddess's temple.
That's such a good one.
You guys can use these, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You guys need to make note of these.
They're going to help you.
Yeah, totally. And you can be more imaginative with your curses from now on. Okay, next scenario. Your partner has an affair with a considerably younger, incredibly attractive person. They divorce you and try to take the house, all the money, and custody of the children.
May your genitals hurt when you make love.
What a curse.
Ooh! Ah! That would be perfect.
Finally, you've died, and you've been buried in this lavish tomb that you designed just how you wanted, with all of your treasures and things of sentimental value surrounding your epic coffin
Oh,
or
yeah.
what have you. But then someone comes along, smashes it all up, loots all your treasure, desecrates your grave.
May your town become a barren expanse of sand.
Burn.
You and everyone you love become dust.
Your final curse you've got there.
Okay, I've saved
the
this
question
one.
now is, what scenario would you use that for?
Alright, so the curse is, may the gods overthrow you in wrath and anger, and may they destroy your name and posterity in the land. I would use this for pretty much everyone at my job. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
we
so
just accidentally curse people.
Yeah.
There you go.
well, we haven't because
We haven't actually invoked it. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're pretty safe with this.
Except for that last one.
Yeah, yeah. That one was real. Yeah, hopefully you can use these curses from now on. You can keep these in your back pocket at work. And you
put these in the
use them to
spell
like
box.
threaten people with them from now on. Be like, don't make me use that curse! Okay, so that was the game section of today's episode. Just to get us, thinking about ancient curses, because I'm going to go into my story for today. I'm kicking it off. I'm going to start off with something that absolutely delighted me last year whilst I was working away on my dissertation. So, summer 2018, archaeologists excavating in Alexandria, Egypt, found a huge black granite sarcophagus, approximately 2,000 years old, containing the remains of 3 adults. I think they're soldiers, or they think that they were soldiers, that would have originally been mummified and then placed in this sarcophagus. And what I loved about this story when it broke on the news was that certain media outlets were already speculating whether the archaeologists would release a curse when they opened the lid. So the excitement when they actually cracked open the lid and reported this super foul smell seeping out of the sarcophagus. And then when they looked in, the sarcophagus was full of this stinky red liquid. It was just like, it definitely looked pretty spooky. So the red liquid that was leaking into the coffin had caused the mummies to kind of decompose. It seeped in to the sarcophagus from a crack. And I think I read somewhere that they actually discovered it was sewage or some kind of wastewater that had got into the coffin fairly recently, and thus decomposed these mummies. So we're just left with these bits of skeleton in there. But this guy from the Supreme Council of Antiquities, he
the Supreme Council of Antiquities. Okay,
he was
girl.
an archaeologist. He put the claims about the curse or the possible curse inside the sarcophagus to rest, because he said, we've opened it and thank God the world has not fallen into darkness. I was the first to put my whole head inside the sarcophagus, and here I stand before you, I am fine. But before he'd been able to say that, people had already made a petition online demanding that they have a chance to drink the mummy milkshake from inside the sarcophagus. So this red sewage soup that these skeletons had been floating in inside this black sarcophagus.
Was Brendan Fraser one of them? Did he sign that?
And the petition said, we need to drink the red liquid from the cursed dark sarcophagus in the form of some sort of carbonated energy drink.
What?
So we can assume its powers and finally die. So I love stuff like that. It shows our belief in the curse of the mummies is apparently alive and well.
Or people got too much damn time.
Which brings me to my main story for today, which is a very famous story concerning archaeologists unleashing an ancient Egyptian curse. Yes, that's right. It's the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb.
Oh,
it's in every unsolved mystery book. I must have seen just so many documentaries, TV shows on it over the years. So for this episode, because it's our first episode on curses per se, we did do a kind of cursed haunted
objects,
haunted decor furniture episode, but that was kind of different. So yeah, I decided I would actually revisit this most famous story and actually kind of get to grips with the events that happened and investigate the curse of the pharaohs.
Yeah, we're focusing on the curse that. Ooh.
Okay, so here we go. Buckle in. Get on your camel. 1922. Valley of the Kings, Egypt. Imagine some like sand blowing across the desert, the sun setting on the horizon. But there's a big town. Not really. It's one of those places as like all those pictures of the pyramids are like cutting out.
They've got a truck stop and a waffle shop
around it, like a huge city. But anyway, I mean, things were probably a little bit different in the 20s. On the west bank of the River Nile, opposite the ancient city of Thebes, which is now Luxor, 3,500 years ago, the ancient Egyptians began cutting into the rock to create tombs for the elite of Egypt's new kingdom. The first royals to be entombed here are probably people like our boy Amenhotep the First.
Yep.
Tutmosis the First.
My dog.
Tutmosis the First's advisor, I think he's called Ineni, but I mean, I'm going to get a lot of complaints from artists about my pronunciation. He suggests to Tutmosis a tomb that was in what was then a desolate valley of rock. And this advisor, he saw to the excavation of this rock tomb, and he wrote, "Alone, no one seeing, no one hearing."
Ooh, keeping it under wraps. He really cared about him.
Yeah. And for 500 years, the pharaohs, their families, and also, elites, powerful noblemen and women were laid to rest here. And so there are over, I think, 60 different tombs that we know of. At that time in ancient Egypt, it was known as the great and majestic necropolis of the millions of years of the pharaoh, life, strength, health in the west of Thebes.
Because good times.
Yeah, they had epic names for things back then. And the valley was even guarded by a special paramilitary police force called the Medjay, which I'm sure is referenced in, like, The Mummy.
Speaking of Brendan Fraser.
They're like desert scouts. They're like this elite. They've got a very interesting and long history in Egypt as a kind of police.
Sort of like Egyptian samurai.
Yeah, originally they're from their own cultural group. Like it was like a tribal name, the Medjay, and they were so great as like soldiers that ancient Egypt hired them to be police, and then eventually it just ended up becoming the name of this epic police force. But it originally roots are in a cultural group.
Oh, cool.
So they're like these epic desert scouts, like the ninjas of Egypt, riding around, being trusted with protecting the most important things, with protecting the palaces and all the royal stuff.
Ain't no joke.
So, the Valley of the Kings, it was really important for these, the elite ancient Egyptians, that their resting places were protected.
Yeah.
These weren't like places just anyone could go and wander around or hang out. They were special places. I don't have time, and I'm also not really qualified to teach us all today about ancient Egyptian religious and spiritual beliefs. But I will give you a brief run through, just so we can kind of understand, a little bit more about what happens in this story today. The ancient Egyptians, their belief in an afterlife was really important to them. Things like mummifying their corpses, it wasn't just done simply to preserve it or preserve it for an afterlife. It's way more complex than that. The ancient Egyptians had this insanely sophisticated perception of life and death and beyond. And essentially,
they wrote the book.
Yeah. Essentially, the body, like our physical body, was seen as a kind of magical home for your soul. And it was very important that the home remained whole in life and death. And it also runs into these ideas about, they thought it was very important that your name was like part of your soul, and that's needs to be remembered forever, for example, by inscribing it into rock in order for you to be kind of carry on existing in the afterlife. You must always be remembered. So if you've gone to the lengths of having yourself mummified, all the rituals and prayers, like this grand tomb that you had designed with all the things you'll need for the afterlife, animals, pets, food, treasures, boats, little figurines of servants and stuff, you're going to want to protect that from grave robbers and looters who might come in and, damage your body, take your things, smash up your tomb. So I guess, inscribing or painting curses or something into your tomb, at least as a deterrent, you know, or getting all these prayers and rituals with the intent of like preserving and protecting you for the afterlife, you know, it makes sense that it would add some kind of security to that. But actually, curses relating to ancient Egyptian tombs are really rare, certainly by the time of the New Kingdom in ancient Egypt, because it's like their history is kind of divided into two kingdoms. There's an Old Kingdom.
Oh, I see.
Old Kingdom was like the heyday when loads of pyramids just being built.
Yeah.
And New Kingdom's when everything kind of goes downhill in some respects. Certainly by the time of the New Kingdom, it was not common practice to put curses in. There are there are some examples, but wasn't really done. One of the ideas behind that is that, in fact, for most ancient Egyptians, their belief and their respect for death and the afterlife was so strong that it would have been kind of unthinkable that anyone would desecrate a tomb, you know, so they didn't really feel the need to place curses there. I mean, ancient Egypt was around for a long, long while. The civilization changed and evolved over time. Funerary practices change. So it's important to point out as well that not everyone in Egyptian society was like mummified and put in a tomb.
Yeah.
You know, that it was expensive. It was like the deluxe funeral option for like nobles and wealthy people, and of course the royals. Loads of like regular poor people just got buried.
Yeah.
Or like they just put your body in a pot or something, or a little pit somewhere. So there we go. There's our little background. Valley of the Kings, a very important place.
Yeah.
So to our story. Thousands of years later, Howard Carter, an Egyptologist and archaeologist with an excellent reputation, he's been excavating in the Valley of the Kings for like 15 years, since 1907.
Nice.
And this is 1922 now. He's there searching for tombs. So he'd been hired by the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, a George Herbert, who's an incredibly wealthy aristocrat. He was an amateur Egyptologist. Him and his wife loved to visit Egypt and travel, and they collected antiquities. And he had already sponsored the excavations of tombs of ancient Egyptian nobles, and now he was the financial backer for these digs in the Valley of the Kings.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, Howard Carter, our archaeologist, he hadn't yet found anything that special for Lord Carnarvon, who was really hoping for a spectacular discovery of an intact. They're trying to locate new tombs.
Something cool.
Exactly. And the thing was, a lot of the tombs there have also they'd been looted or damaged in antiquity. So he wasn't finding necessarily the spectacular discovery that he wanted. And funding for the excavations was starting to run out. That year, 1922, Lord Carnarvon tells Carter that only one more season of digging can be funded. So, Howard Carter, he's desperate for some kind of breakthrough. He needs to find something magnificent, you know, perhaps an unlooted tomb or a new tomb. So he starts redigging a site that he'd previously abandoned, where there had been like a group of, I think, ancient workers' huts, or there was some sort of little bit of structure there. It had been overlooked, basically. And on November 4th, Carter's team uncover a step that has been carved into the rock. They keep digging and they unveil a whole staircase and this with a doorway.
I would piss myself.
Yeah. So this is big.
Yeah.
This is big. Carter...
Because nobody carves rock back then without it being serious business. It's tedious work.
100%.
It's not just some worker hut.
Carter wires a telegram to Lord Carnarvon, who's, I think, in Britain at the time, and he says, "At last we have made a wonderful discovery in the valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact, recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations." AKA,
come over here.
Get your ass here right
something.
now.
I'm fucking feeling good.
We found something epic.
And you imagine how many rich people got swindled back in the day constantly with this kind of endeavors. So I would still, as
Lord Carnarvon probably falls out of his armchair at this news. And despite being quite infirm and injured from an automobile accident that he'd had, he hotfoots it to Egypt. And so November 26th, Lord Carnarvon is there. Everyone's excited to find out what's behind the doorway, literally waiting with bated breath. And Howard Carter starts chipping a little hole into the corner of the doorway so that they can peek into the chamber behind.
Ooh, just to see what's in.
And Lord Carnarvon's there, excitedly bouncing around next to Carter.
Aziz Light!
Here's the famous quote from Howard Carter. "With trembling hands, I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner. Widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in. At first I could see nothing, the hot air escaping from the chamber, causing the candle to flicker. Presently, details of the room emerged slowly from the mist. Strange animals, statues, and gold. Everywhere the glint of gold. For the moment, an eternity it must have seemed to the others standing by, I was struck dumb with amazement, and when Lord Carnarvon, unable to stand in suspense any longer, inquired anxiously, 'Can you see anything?' It was all I could do to get out the words, 'Yes, wonderful things.'" Epic stuff. So Carter and his team had discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, a king who had ruled Egypt from around 1332 to 1323 BC. Not very long. The tomb was a remarkable discovery because it was still intact, pretty much.
Wow.
A couple of things had been robbed in antiquity, but probably right after he was buried
they
in there.
resealed or something.
Some guys who'd worked on to help transport the stuff had gone back, and they'd taken things like perfumes and stuff, but none of the big,
They probably too scared.
Yeah, but it was still jam-packed with all of these epic artifacts, and of course the very famous sarcophagus with the mask, which contained, we'll call him Tut, which is everyone's favourite nickname, Tut's mummified remains. Of course, if you want to see photographs of this, we'll share some and some great resources on this.
It's ingrained in my brain.
If you
in my brain, I can see it in my mind's eye.
You can look it up.
Gorgeous. It's so insane what they did. I used to watch them all the time, and I've taken a break because I spent 10 good years with my mom obsessing, but it is so incredible what they were doing, what everyone was doing back then.
Yeah. Some excellent craftsmanship, just super exquisite pieces. Tutankhamun is famously known as a boy king of Egypt because he became pharaoh at the age of 9 or 10, and because he died suddenly around the age of 18, 19, and they practiced burial within 70 days of death. So there wasn't enough time to build this huge grand tomb for him. So they think he's been placed in the smaller discreet tomb that was probably intended for someone else because there wasn't time, which of course kind of surprises everyone. There was a lot of interest in his death, and it was speculated that maybe he died in, sinister circumstances. Maybe he'd been assassinated, or he died in a chariot race. But now it seems way more likely that he died as a result of various health problems. The evidence shows he was a pretty sickly individual.
Because I haven't heard anything in
years. He was born with several congenital defects, quite serious spinal issues. He would have needed a cane to walk. This guy dying at 18 or 19. They found loads of fancy canes in his tomb as well. He probably died as a result of an infection from a leg fracture combined with malaria and a generally just weak physical condition. So it wasn't anything sinister like murder, this guy was just kind of sickly. Anywho, Carter and his team, they worked really hard over 8 years or so to record and catalogue the tomb and every item in the tomb before removing it and preserving the objects. He was famous at the time for being super meticulous, quite proactive archaeologist who was...
Let's get it right.
Yeah, he was getting it right. He was doing it sort of very properly. So when does the curse come into the story?
Yeah.
Well, the first rumours of a curse start to spread soon after the first opening of Tutankhamun's tomb, when a famous Egyptologist called James Henry Breasted comes to the Valley of the Kings to work with Howard Carter. So Breasted reports an incident...
Is he a twin? Sorry.
Which is published in the New York Times in December of 1922. He states that Carter sent a messenger on an errand to his house, so Carter's house. On arriving at Carter's house, the messenger heard a faint, almost human cry. He goes in and sees a cobra inside a bird cage with Carter's pet canary in its mouth.
Oh, shit.
So that incident fuels rumours amongst the locals of a curse. The incident was interpreted as a sign that the archaeologists had unleashed a pharaoh's curse by breaking into Tut's tomb.
That would be a pretty weird thing to happen.
Yeah.
Oh
that
my God.
snake just in, it's like putting a little burger in a cage.
Yeah,
it's
got a Happy Meal in a cage.
So because Carter had broken into the royal tomb, a royal cobra had retaliated by breaking into Carter's house and eating his pet. So that was what they interpreted as like a kind of symbol.
Wow, that would be crazy easy to see symbolism in. I would totally agree.
So let's consider, just remember in your head that the tomb was opened in November 1922. So March 1923, just a few months later, Marie Corelli, a famous English novelist and mystic of the time, writes what was described as an imaginative letter to the New York World magazine. Marie reckoned she'd gotten hold of a mysterious ancient book that stated that poisons were left in the burial chambers of the Egyptian tombs, and thus those who rifled in the pharaoh's tomb would likely meet a dire punishment. 2 weeks after that letter is published, and this is like about 4 months after the tomb had been opened, Lord Carnarvon, the financial backer who'd funded the excavations and been one of the first inside the tomb, he dies from an infected mosquito bite. Everybody freaks out, news spreads, and the story of the archaeologists unleashing an ancient Egyptian curse balloons.
Yeah, I bet.
So the media at the time, aka newspapers, create a frenzy by saying, the curse has been found, some hieroglyphics or something have been found that say, if you disturb this tomb, you will die. But that wasn't actually true. They hadn't found any sign of a curse, like written in the tomb or whatever. But nonetheless, the story had caught on and now people were going crazy. Our friend Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
oh God,
the writer behind Sherlock Holmes, who believed in fairies and stuff, he's, of course, following the events of Tut's tomb, and he tells the media that he's pretty sure that Lord Carnarvon's death was the result of elementals created by Tut's priests that guarded the tomb.
I love him.
So elementals are like magical spirits, mythical beings and things that are categorized by elements, like water nymphs, fire salamanders, gnomes are like the earth one.
Yeah.
They're like Pokemon of magic. This was quite a popular concept at the time. People who are into the occult, Conan Doyle and Marie Corelli.
Not just Dungeons and Dragons players who didn't have Dungeons and Dragons.
This was just Pokemon in the 1920s. So this guy called, I think it's Arthur Weigel, maybe Weigel, I don't know. Weigel sounds slightly better. Who had looked on as the tomb was being opened. He'd watched Lord Carnarvon laughing and joking and jumping around with glee as he entered the tomb.
If that would
be clicking your heels
me
together
to go into a tomb that's just been opened, I would be flipping out.
Full of gold.
Oh God.
So this Arthur Weigel, he'd watching on, thinking, that's not appropriate behaviour, or this guy's way too overexcited. He apparently turned to a reporter at the time, and he said that he only gave Lord Carnarvon 6 weeks to live. He was like, I give that guy 6 weeks to live. That's adding to our little curse rumour. Mussolini, he's around at the time. He didn't ever visit the tomb or anything, but he's around. He's alive in the 20s. He freaks out at the story of the curse because someone had gifted him an Egyptian mummy at some point, which he had accepted. So he immediately orders the removal of this Egyptian mummy from his property.
Happy birthday!
He doesn't want to take any chances. It gets worse. It gets worse. If you think being gifted a whole mummy is inappropriate. An anthropologist called Henry Field, he'd visited the tomb and he recalled the kindness and friendliness of Howard Carter.
Yeah.
He also reported a strange and unfortunate story to the newspapers concerning the tomb of Tutankhamun. He recalled that Howard Carter had gifted a friend called Sir Bruce Ingram, a successful publisher, with a paperweight from Tut's tomb. It already seems like unlikely because I think Carter was supposed to be like a pretty upstanding archaeologist for the time and really meticulous about recording and preserving
like the kind of person
things
who's just
properly.
gonna be like, here, buddy.
I'd be surprised to hear he's like just gifting people knickknacks out of the tomb, to his mates. Anyway, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. So this paperweight isn't just any paperweight.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's not like a pretty lump of glass or like a brass puppy statue or anything. It's a paperweight that is composed of a mummified hand with its wrist adorned with a scarab bracelet marked with the words, aka, so probably hieroglyphs, "Cursed be he who moves my body. To him shall come fire, water, and pestilence."
On
Nice
the
gift.
hand?
Nice gift.
Why would you?
Hey, do you want, I love you so much, have this
Cursed hand. With
cursed dead
amulet.
person's hand? But people were weird back then because
People
I
don't
think
come
I
to
should also
table.
mention that people used to grind up mummies and use them as a shade of paint.
What?
It's a famous shade of paint that's really rare and
What?
super expensive now because it was literally made of a brown colour called like mumra or like something like that. Or moom or something.
What's wrong
Made
with
of
people?
ground up mummy. And
I
they
mean, these
also used it in medicine. People used to like have like a smelling salt of like mummy powder.
What is up with people back in the day and like using dead bodies for all sorts? They used to cart dead bodies on train journeys and stuff. Like, look at this is Abe Lincoln's body, or like, you know what I mean? Like, there was. Did you hear about that amusement park ride?
No.
Okay, so there's an amusement park ride that had a hanging
I have
man
heard of this with
the hanging mummy,
the dead body.
Yeah, and that body had been passed around and sold and stuff, and like the person like realized because it was a bit loosening and stuff, they realized that it was an actual dead body.
Carnies.
Oh, we love them.
He
Gross.
gifts this man with a cursed mummy hand paperweight. So soon after receiving the gift, from Howard Carter. Not only does Bruce Ingram's house burn down, but when he rebuilds it, his property is damaged by a flood. So the fire and water and pestilence is a coming for him.
Oh no.
People freak out even more when Tut's remains are examined because they found this like a wound or scar, like a healed lesion of the skin or something on his face. Now, Lord Carnarvon's fatal mosquito bite had been on his cheek, and they wanted to know if it matched. Was it the same side of the face? Was there some kind of correlation here? You know, if they matched, then this was proof that Lord Carnarvon had died from the mummy's curse. But one problem is, by this point, I think Lord Carnarvon had been long buried, so they couldn't check. So here we have, anyway, the story of this very rich earl, this amateur Egyptologist, enthusiastic guy. He's died very suddenly after the opening of the tomb. He was one of the first people in. He's the guy that's been putting all the money into this. Very excited for a spectacular find. He wanted a load of treasure. And that's caused this massive media frenzy about a curse in the tomb. 16th of May, 1923. George J. Gould, a visitor to the tomb, develops a fever following his time in the Valley of the Kings, and he dies. The 10th of July, 1923, Prince Ali Kamel something of Egypt dies. You're going to have to correct my pronunciation of lots of these. He's shot dead by his wife, Marguerite Alibert, at the Savoy Hotel in London. It was like an insane scandal in the 20s. He was like a royal, and she was insane socialite lady.
Yeah.
So it's like an awful and fascinating murder. But it's only connected to the curse because this guy was an Egyptian aristocrat. He didn't have anything to do with the opening of the tomb or anything. So it was just connected because he was part of the royal family. And this was, only months after the tomb was opened. The 26th September 1923, the Honourable Aubrey Herbert, MP, Carnarvon's half-brother contracts blood poisoning after undergoing a dental procedure intended to help restore his failing eyesight, and he dies.
There's a whole mess of that sentence. We're going to move on, but there's a lot of that sentence I don't understand.
So Lord Carnarvon's half-brother, he's dead.
Yeah.
Lord Carnarvon has died. He's the main guy.
I just meant
died.
the blood disease to help his eyesight. They're doing dental work. I just don't want to peer any closer to that. I'm not going to take a candle in the hole and try and figure that one out.
15th January 1924, Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, a radiologist who had x-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy, dies from a mysterious illness. 19th November 1924, the Governor-General of Sudan, Sir Lee Stack, is assassinated while driving through Cairo, Egypt. Again, with this one, the only connection is that he was in Cairo when he dies. Sometime in 1928, Arthur Mace, a member of Carter's original excavation team, he'd also helped Carter draft the first volume of a book on the tomb.
Oh, yeah.
He dies from arsenic poisoning. 26th of May 1929, the Honourable Mervyn Herbert, another of Lord Carnarvon's half-brothers, dies from malarial pneumonia.
Oh, no.
15th of November 1929, Captain Richard Bethel, Howard Carter's personal secretary, dies in bed in a Mayfair club, the victim of a suspected smothering.
Oh, shit.
20th February 1930, Captain Richard Bethel's father, so the man that's just died from possibly being smothered in a club, his dad, Richard Luttrell Pilkington Bethel, the 3rd Baron Westbury, father of that man, he supposedly throws himself off his 7th floor apartment and dies. And then Howard Carter, who opened the tomb, our main archaeologist guy, he dies well over a decade later.
Oh, okay. Howard Carter's fine.
Yeah, 1939. He'd been suffering from Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's buried in Putney Vale in London, and he's got the most wonderful epitaph, which was taken from a chalice that they found in Tut's tomb, which reads, "May your spirit live, may you spend millions of years, you who love Thebes, sitting with your face to the north wind, your eyes beholding happiness. And, O night, spread thy wings over me as the imperishable stars."
No.
Pretty epic to have that. However, some have still attributed his death, even though it was like ages later, to the curse of the tomb. What's the verdict then? There are about 11 deaths in the first 10 years of Tutankhamun's tomb opening. But the majority of the people who were involved, the people that excavated, that would have gone in there, all the workers and all the people that helped transport things out and come and visit, most people lived healthy, long lives.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I think, can just be completely discounted immediately just because they were Egyptian people or they died in Egypt, but didn't necessarily have any connection to the opening of the tomb.
Tut is as weak in afterlife as he was in real life, in actual life, so he can't kill people at a good rate.
A lot of the deaths that are attributed with the curse happened to people that were associated with Lord Carnarvon, like his half-brothers.
I think it's funny how they focus on the rich, and
Yeah.
they're just peasant workers. So it's just funny how all the cursed people are the rich ones, and that also sort of might be a little reflective of how people feel about rich people most of the time.
Well, what a great story as well, when this
all the rich people croaking and stuff.
This enthusiastic rich dude who's paid to search for these tombs for all these years
finds the
immediately
tomb.
dies.
Mosquitoes, man.
So if there was a curse, we're going to say, okay, there could well have been a curse. I would say that it only affected Lord Carnarvon. A cursed mosquito bit him on the face, resulting in the infection that kills him or whatever. You could explain it like that. But was there a curse? So this whole idea about the curse of the pharaohs, there's no good evidence that Tutankhamun's tomb was actually cursed. There's no real proof of an inscription or something, but there are a few examples of curses found in other Egyptian tombs, which would have given, people the green light, in a way, to believe in Egyptian curses that, you know, there is a little bit of truth. This isn't totally, like, imagined, you know, there are curses in some Egyptian
Maybe
tombs.
if he'd lived long enough to an old, ripe age, he'd have curses. No, I know he's New Kingdom. Or is he Old Kingdom?
New Kingdom.
Oh, he's New Kingdom,
yeah.
okay.
So most of the examples of curses found in ancient Egyptian tombs come from the time of the Old Kingdom.
Okay.
You know, the heyday where they were building pyramids, like left, right, and centre. So, you know, also make a note of these, because you can take some inspiration for your next curse from these. My pronunciation is going to be wrong, but the tomb of Anktifi, 9th to 10th dynasty, contains the warning, any ruler who shall do evil or wickedness to this coffin, may Hemen, which is like a local god, not accept any goods he offers, and may his heir not inherit.
No inheriting for you.
The tomb of Kentika contains an inscription, as for all men who shall enter this, my tomb, impure, there will be judgment. An end shall be made for him. I shall seize his neck like a bird. I shall cast the fear of myself into him. Make a note of that. So curses after the Old Kingdom era, so, you know, in the New Kingdom period, which is when Tut lived, are like way less common, but when they do appear, they're like really severe. Like even more severe than that. Sometimes invoking the ire of Thoth, who's the ibis baboon scribe god, or the destruction of Sekhmet, the mighty warrior goddess with a lion face.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to mess with her because she has titles like one before whom evil trembles, mistress of dread, lady of slaughter, and she who molds.
AKA me on a Sunday morning.
Our favourite goddess. So you definitely don't want to invoke her wrath. But here's an example from a New Kingdom tomb, which is, cursed be those who disturb the rest of a pharaoh. They that shall break the seal of this tomb shall meet death by a disease that no doctor can diagnose. So there are curses. I would be very tentative about going in and breaking into a tomb if someone had written that sincerely at the time of the sealing up of the tomb. So yes, ancient Egypt did have a belief in magic. They had their own kind of understanding of magic and spells. They have a very strong set of beliefs about death and an afterlife, and although rare, they did have curses connected to their tombs. And you can see why the sudden death of Lord Carnarvon at that time could have sparked, you know, with that knowledge being there, could have sparked this frenzy about a pharaoh's curse. But there's a common theme in all of this, which is this kind of thing we've got about it's bad vibes if you disturb the dead or are disrespectful with the dead and their resting places. In a lot of cultures, we've got this whole idea about don't mess with, like, mummies, for example. Like, mummies are a bit magical or might have spells.
They've reached horror's, like, one of horror's monsters.
Yeah.
Like, the mummy is an official monster in the horror universe.
Not interested. Yeah, so we've got this idea about mummies equal curses.
Yeah.
And it's not completely unfounded because, yes, Egyptians did have some curses for their tombs and whatnot, and they believed in magic and all these kind of things. But still, the curse of the mummy persists. So, unrelated to the ancient Egyptians was the whole story of when they found Ötzi the Iceman, that naturally preserved mummy that they discovered in the Alps in ice in the 90s, I think, which was of a man who had died around 3,300 BC, just like in some snow or ice. I think they've proved, or they've got good evidence now, that he did die from some sort of battle wound, like he'd been shot with an arrow, slowly died.
More like oopsie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oopsie. There were claims that this mummy was cursed because 7 people who are linked to the discovery of Ötzi and his removal, and even someone that examined the mummy, they all died in, like, freak hiking, mountaineering accidents. But, you know, this was on the Alps that he was found. He was found by mountaineers. People who died from heart attacks, diseases, car accident. But again, tons of people were involved with Ötzi that didn't die. You know, most people that were connected to his discovery or whatever, they didn't die. But even though he wasn't Egyptian or like intentionally preserved
Yeah.
through mummification, people still connected the idea of the mummy with a curse. I don't know, is where a lot of these ideas about curses or bad luck stem from. Don't walk on graves in the churchyard.
Yeah.
Don't damage a tombstone. Don't build your housing estate on a Native American burial ground, you know, and it takes a pretty brave individual even in England.
Have you ever seen Poltergeist?
Yes.
You knew the whole time!
To buy, you know, people who buy like a renovated chapel with like the old graves in the graveyard and you've got to keep them there in your garden. And it takes a brave sort of person to be able to, you know, be chill with that. A lot of us are going to feel creeped out or like feel somehow disrespectful if we're disturbing a dead body or grave.
That's true. I grew up around a cemetery, so I quite often have no problem walking on graves or anything. I grew up across from them sometimes because of the flooding. Graves would be brought up, and you might see a little
hand waving out of the
bony thing inside that you want to go investigate with a flashlight, but you're too scared, so you run away. Not that I know.
We were always told not to walk on graves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was told that, but that's when even though I was complete grunge, there's still gothy rebel in me somewhere. Like, I'm just like stepping on
it. I felt quite like, frightened into respect of it. But then that was my old school family kind of.
Well, the dead have always been friendlier to me than the living.
Anyway, I think that a lot of us have this ingrained thing about be super respectful, be really careful around those kind of places, around dead bodies. You have to behave in a certain way. And I think that's probably why we've explained or like interpreted bad events or like deaths that happen as a result of being a curse or like bad vibes or magic or something. So yes, that was my kind of little investigation there into the mummy's curse or the curse of the pharaohs.
Lord Carnarvon really endearing. I just liked him. Like, he's so excited.
Well, I think the problem is in a lot of, I don't know what he was like. I really didn't research him.
Because normally they show him in the documentaries as like a bumbling rich dude.
Yeah, of like the silly, crazed rich dude, the like treasure hungry rich dude, But he was, he was very enthusiastic.
Anyone paying for archaeological digs that may lead to nowhere is doing the Lord's work. Even though there's some problematic elements to back then, especially with archaeology and that still reverberates today. It is one of those stories that I never heard it with just the focus on them kind of thing and, the curse itself. But yeah.
It makes me want to watch The Mummy again.
I kind of do.
I think that inspired a lot of my adult decisions.
Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider.
No, Tomb Raider was my greatest role model.
It was
from the
so
age of
weird.
like 6 or 7. It was my favorite thing. I was obsessed with Tomb Raider. I loved it as well, but like I just wanted to be Tomb Raider. I wanted to be Lara Croft. I dressed like Lara Croft.
Wow. You got the hair. You got the accent.
I have tried to evolve into her kind of comfort version of Lara Croft.
Yes.
I'm never going to be... I wasn't born a lady with a manor house and a butler.
Ugh.
I'm not tough enough and I sucked at PE, so...
I'm
the most unsporty, uncompetitive
It always surprises
person.
me when I get outside with Violet and we're all going to do Frisbee or something. You don't like any competition. You don't like competitive sports or even for people to play games that are slightly
I don't know whether it
competitive.
is I'm meant to be blaming it on hand-eye coordination, but my body is just useless. I can't run.
She can.
I'm good at strength exercises. I can lift like a fridge on my back and like probably throw it. I've always said if I was being attacked by a werewolf or something, like I probably would do pretty good because I just have that adrenaline strength thing going on.
You know how sometimes you get in a group of people doing sporty type stuff and you're in a group of, and some of the girls will be like, and like some of them are playing up the fact that they're shit even though you know they can play. Violet's not that. She's not being coy. She's struggling.
Yeah.
She's like, oh God, I don't want...
If people throw a ball at me, it normally hits me. My head's like a magnet.
Yeah.
Like a kid volleyball at school and
I don't think it
netball.
detracts, it's just
bruised.
It's just one of those things. Not everyone can do everything great. No. And I just try not to throw stuff at your face. I would be really
relying on the technology if I was Tomb Raider. I'd be like a slightly overweight Tomb Raider in like a Land Rover with like, I don't know, just some like big gun.
You know what you are? You're a mix of...
buggy myself around shooting people.
You're like a mix of Tomb Raider, but with the lady from Jurassic Park, where she's a bit more practical.
Yeah.
Bit more she's just doing the job. It's more grounded. She's like a mixture.
I would like to settle for some kind of middle ground like Evie from The Mummy. Just like,
yes,
I'm more of a bookworm.
Yes.
I do fare better in like a dark library, being bothered by like dusty old books and stuff. But I can sprint when I need to.
Yeah, exactly.
I can fight when I need to. I can jump up a tree when I need to. Just kind of like a lazy cat, I just can't really... It's a big effort for me.
Alright, so... my story is about a cursed diamond. So I'm going to start with a couple facts about diamonds that people may or may not know. Because of their very nature, most have ages between 1 and 3 billion years. They're formed hundreds of kilometers within the Earth's mantle by high pressure and carbon-containing fluids that then dissolve minerals that become what we know as diamond. They were then eventually propelled or sent to the surface from volcanic eruptions and have stuck to rocks and shit. And that's how we find them.
Diamond fact file!
So in myth, they're said to contain healing properties, treatments that diamonds could do. Like, these are what they can do to fix you. Stomach aches, depression. See, this is why I suffer from depression, is because I don't have diamonds in my life. Infections, mental illness, skin disease. So pretty much everything they can use diamonds for. They were also sometimes used in trials in some cultures to determine guilt or innocence. If the diamond sparkled near you a lot, you were good to go and you were innocent. But if it was a cloudy day and maybe you're wearing a hat and the diamond didn't glint a certain way, you were going to be found guilty. So they've been used, not unlike New Age crystals, to protect your home. And you can, if you place a diamond under your pillow, detect if your wife is cheating on you. Which was done by men in the 1600s. No equal one for the ladies. They're not allowed to use the diamond.
How can they tell that whether their wife is being...
That's all I heard. Like, maybe if the diamond's gone, she's been cheating on you.
Or like, do you look into the diamond and see like a glimpse into the future? Or...
I have no idea. That's all it said. All it said is men used to use it to see if their wife's cheating on them. So everything I'm about to tell you about a particular diamond, which is the sensational part of my story, can be traced back to one dude. And we're going to talk about a man called Pierre Cartier. So 1910 or 1911, so a bit before they found that tomb we were talking about earlier. Depending on what you read, Pierre Cartier acquired one of the most intriguing and, if you believe it, cursed diamonds in the world. This diamond was originally known as the Tavernier Blue, and it was 112 and 3/16 carats. The beast of a dark blue diamond was wrapped in a plain package, held in Cartier's hands while he wove a story that would help transform a piece of historic significance and geological wonder into one of the most feared and awe-inspiring objects to ever bear the title of cursed. This isn't a haunted diamond. This is specifically a cursed diamond. So, Pierre Cartier was a jeweler born in 1878, family business. One thing I know about jewelers now, after looking up, is that they're also travelers and they deal with the highfalutin folk. Hoi polloi or whatever it's called. They rub shoulders with the extremely wealthy, who are also sometimes extremely gullible. So Pierre knew which clients to go to with this mysterious blue diamond. His targets were Mr. and Mrs. McLean. Mr. McLean, who was the son and heir to the Washington Post, and looks like a respectable Johnny Depp if you have a picture. We'll add a picture. and his wife, Mrs. McLean, they would totally listen to this podcast because she was a socialite obsessed with the strange and mysterious. She liked diamonds, but she's only going to want that diamond if it's got a weird story attached to it and is special. She's really pretty. In a movie, they'd get like Rachel Weisz to play her. Wasn't Rachel Weisz in The Mummy?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So she would be.
Evie or
she would be as this. Like you could totally have Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser actually, or Johnny Depp. Well, maybe Brendan Fraser, considering a little bit of controversy with Mr. Depp. If Johnny can get all his scarves off in order to achieve playing the role of the movie. She was once quoted as saying, Miss McLean, something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, unlucky objects are lucky for me. Yeah. So she's basically a badass poor chick whose dad struck it rich during the gold rush. One of those rare...
Nouveau riche.
Super new rich, and she went from having nothing and barely getting by to becoming a crazy millionaire marrying into the Washington Post. But Pierre's story went as follows. So imagine Pierre Cartier is a really cool jeweler. He's like trying to find the right clients for the right jewel, so to speak. I'm sort of paraphrasing what I think he would have told them. The story's out there, like as far as what he roughly told them. So, the diamond's origins were a beautiful idol in a temple of monks who guarded its preciousness among other diamonds, adoring the statue of a goddess, a heathen goddess. When visiting the temple, a Frenchman and famed jeweler named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier waited until midnight and stole the brilliant large blue diamond from the idol. He then took the diamond back to France and sold it to King Louis XIV. Once cut, it had a gold mounting that, because of the way it was cut, appeared from the front of the diamond to be a brilliant sunburst within the blue, so it looks like this sun thing coming, because the way it's mounted. It's so pretty. The etchings and painting, like you can see portraits of the king taken at painted at the time, his selfies, with the diamond on there. Pierre explained that King Louis would be the first victim of the diamond's deadly curse. For Tavernier's part in the theft, he would eventually become penniless, robbed of his fortune by his own nephew, and attempting to restore that fortune and reputation, he would once again journey back to India to seek more diamonds. Unfortunately for him, on his journey through the desert, a pack of wild dogs attacked and consumed him in the desert, leaving nothing behind. Another person associated with the curse is Nicolas Fouquet. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's what we're going to say. Rumor is he wore it once or twice. And at one point, the king got pissed off with him, and he was imprisoned for life. He spent 15 years in a fortress. And this is also, funnily enough, the guy that people think is the man in the Iron Mask.
Oh, okay.
That the king had a secret twin. And the reason why he was wearing this diamond, because he felt equally king. Because they were twins, they couldn't both be king. And what a conundrum. Who's king? That's definitely something I want to do an episode on at some point. Totally. So next up is Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Everyone knows what happened to them. Some revolution stuff happened and everyone died. But if you don't look into it, because it is awesome tale. Essentially, King Louis XVI, as king, would have worn the French blue, but rumors also suppose that Marie Antoinette, infamous and seen, looking back on history as a sort of selfish, gluttonous airhead, more obsessed with fashion than governing. And same goes for her king. Sorry, I'm really ill, so my nose is black. So this led to a revolution. They were both eventually executed. And this is also attributed to the curse of the Hope Diamond. Princess de Lamballe, a member of the king's court, also apparently wore the diamond and was torn to pieces by a French mob. And terrifying, because just a princess was torn to pieces. Doesn't matter how rich and wealthy and cool and great you think you are. At any moment, the mob...
The hive can revolt.
Oh, any moment. So in 1792, rioters stormed the royal treasury and they stole everything. And it wasn't, they go in and they grab stuff. I mean, it was a week-long event of People by the end of the week were camping, doing music. There were people selling turkey legs on a stick.
Okay.
It was the Woodstock of thieving because there's so much treasure that they can't take it all out at once. And at first people are like, oh, wait, hey, a couple different treasure groups greedily getting stuff. And then eventually they're all friends. They know everyone's getting a pearl necklace. It's going to be fine. So there are chilling, drinking, making merry, dancing, and the crown jewels, I would hope. The royal French blue at that time is supposedly lost forever. But people reckon that it's recut by a Dutch jeweler named Wilhelm Fals, who is shortly thereafter murdered by his own son. Then his son, who inherits the French blue after it's cut, commits suicide. Next off, Francis Francis gets a hold of it and sells it. Apparently, the quote was, he died in misery. So as vague as that is, it wasn't fun. So the ultimate fuck you. The French blue is in the hands of the English.
Oh boy.
This is when it is supposed that George IV got a hold of it, and now the Hope Diamond, calling it the Hope Diamond, and he ended up in debt. Yeah, it's called the Hope Diamond because either a banker got hold of it named Henry Philip Hope, and he also suffered many misfortunes and the death of his only son. Screw his daughters. I don't know if he had daughters. So then Lord Francis Hope inherits the diamond. Well, wouldn't you know it? He has a shit time of it, is married to someone he hates. Then that person he's married to that he hates writes a tell-all about him. Ugh. He ends up in debt. His wife May is supposed to have wear the diamond as well, but still managed to die in poverty as well. So they're all shitty. Then Simon Frankel of New York got a hold of it in 1901, so we're getting closer. Ended up in debt in the Depression. I mean, it is a long curse list. So, Lorenz Ledoux of Folies Berger borrowed the diamond from her lover, Ivan, and then was murdered by him. Don't borrow diamonds. Simon Mankarides, a Greek jewel broker. He owned the diamond and drove his car over a precipice, killing himself, his wife, and his child.
Oh my god.
Habib Bey, Persian diamond merchant. So you can see it's bouncing all over the place.
Is there anyone that has it that doesn't have a bad time? Is there anyone that owns it for a bit and has a wonderful time or a normal time?
We'll get there. Maybe Mrs. McLean. Yeah, I will get to that.
Get through our list.
Habib Bey, Persian diamond merchant. He owned it briefly, and he drowned in the sinking of a French steamship in 1909. Abdul Hamid II, the Sultan of Turkey, he paid $400,000 at the time for the diamond, and then shortly thereafter lost the Ottoman Empire in an army revolt. Abu Sabir, his servant, polished the diamond supposedly for the Sultan and was imprisoned and tortured during the revolt. Zubaydah, his favorite concubine, she wore the diamond, was stabbed to death. Kulub Bey, he was the guardian of the diamond. He was hanged by the Turkish mob. Hever Aga, official of the Sultan's treasury, attempted to steal the diamond and was hanged. And then we're back to Pierre Cartier, who's somehow gotten hold of this diamond, and he's sitting in front of Evelyn Walsh McLean, lover of all strange things. She purchases the diamond from Pierre Cartier. Spoiler alert, he sells it to her with that weird story about the idol.
Okay.
Diamonds are lucky for me, it's her. So her mother-in-law dies shortly thereafter. Her firstborn son died in an auto accident at the age of 9. Oof. And this is in a time when it's early automobiles, so it's just...
So like Lord Carnarvon getting his leg injured and...
Mr. McLean, he ends up running off with another woman, dissipating their fortune. And then suffered brain atrophy from alcoholism and died in a mental hospital. And her only daughter died of a drug overdose at the age of 25.
Wow.
Evelyn was forced to sell the family newspaper, The Washington Post, and died soon after her daughter's death. But I will say that her son died in the auto accident before she got the diamond.
Okay.
So I'll give you that little hint, but this is the curse. Okay, so next up after Mrs. McLean, after she dies, and the diamond goes. And I think that crazy bitch used to, I think she used to throw it at soldiers and stuff. She used to play with it. And when the Smithsonian got hold of it, They said that it was so close to shattering.
Wow.
Because the pressure on it was too much. Like, it obviously had been tossed about.
Right.
And it's had
Imagine
quite a history.
being that rich, you could just throw a diamond around.
Seriously. They did this cute little anecdotal joke that's supposed to paint her in a good light about how she threw it around with the soldiers and, like, let them play with it. And I was just like, not my diamond.
No.
She let, one of them let their dog wear it on their collar.
Aww.
It was a dog collar diamond.
The dog didn't get cursed.
Well, it did die.
Shit.
James Todd, an American mailman, delivered the Hope Diamond once it was donated to the Smithsonian and crushed his leg in a truck accident, injured his head in an automobile accident, and then lost his home in a fire. The American people are the current owners. It is officially the American People's. It's at the Smithsonian Institution. It was received from Harry Winston, who eventually, I didn't look up him. For some reason, a lot of the history takes him out of the equation, so I don't know what happened with him. I think he lived normal life, so it's not sexy. He gifted it to the Smithsonian Institution, and ever since he's done that, I think you'll agree that America has suffered economic, natural, political disasters heretofore unexplained until linked to the curse. The Hope Diamond. Okay, so all these terrible things have supposedly happened, and I'm gonna break them down and show you that it's all bullshit.
Okay. Let's do it, because I'm thinking there's either just, like, bad stuff happened all the time, like, there were so few
It's just back
automobiles,
then.
and they were all dangerous that, like, anyone with a car was getting mangled up in them. Little newspaper boys getting mangled by the cars.
Starting with the original story about Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, he was a jeweler. He got the diamond fair and square. He actually worked for the Sultan, and he was so impressed by his jewelry, he gave him a title. Keep in mind, this is back in the day where if you commit a crime or you fucking offend people back then, in those places, you were it's possible they can do horrible things to you know, and be quite within their rights to do so. So the fact that he was able to receive a title as a jeweler to the Sultan himself shows the respect with which he was treated. It was said that he always paid his taxes. He didn't try and get around it, and he would always almost be very grateful and very clear-cut and business-like when it came to the transactions, because he didn't want to be seen as greedy, and he's a good jeweler. They actually found his grave in Russia, so he supposedly got torn apart by Indian dogs.
Okay.
He had lived prosperously in Russia. He was ripped off by his nephew, who did steal his fortune somehow. But he then went to Russia and made a very good living as a jeweler in Moscow, because as we know, Russians have a lot of diamonds as well in Siberia and that. King Louis, we'll go to King Louis. So John Baptiste was fine. He ended up okay. King Louis, who had the diamond, he died September 1715, but he purchased it in 1666. So he had this cursed diamond, this bloody cursed diamond, for 50 years, 49 years. And he died of a ripe old age. It's amazing how quick in all these documentaries they go, and King Louis had it, and Marie Antoinette. And they go immediately to Marie Antoinette and the French Revolution, and they don't talk about the fact that King Louis pranced around in a coat of diamonds for 50 years with a Tavernier blue.
Epic.
So if he was cursed, it was with good health. And it was a very, very long time before the curse took effect. And his nickname was the Sun King. So, I mean, are you really that cursed if you, in history, are known as the longest ruled French king, arguably one of the longest ruled, kings?
One of the most famous ones is the one everyone knows if you're not French.
He's great. King Louis. I knew him. Like, I took you.
It's the only one I know.
Yeah, he's great. And he had lots of diamonds. He had a peaceful reign. He had an arguably long-ass reign. And things were good. So, I mean, take it as you will. Next. Seeing as the French blue was made for a king, it is highly unlikely, nearly impossible, for Marie Antoinette to have been in the same room with the diamond, much less touched it or worn it.
Yeah.
The way things and those royal families,
I mean, she
the
has
reason
her
why
own
they
extravagant jewels.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you think back to the
when
Treasure
she won her
Hunters
crusty
episode,
granddad's sun diamond.
she supposedly had all these, like, epic jewels that she had her maid carry away and take to London and then possibly have buried in Nova Scotia.
King George may or may not have even had the diamond the British king that supposedly got hold of it. But it's ancient France versus England stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me. I like to think, because I like the story of it, that the English were like dancing around with the French blue before they had it cut again, losing another chunk of the diamond's brilliance. And it used to be so large, and now it's like ever so tiny. All right, so there's a lot of bullshit with Evelyn McLean's story as well. Most of those tragic incidents happened before she got the diamond. However, one cool thing is that the Hope Diamond glows for 2 minutes red after being exposed to UV light, as well as a lot of diamonds. If you haven't seen the diamond pyramid, go check that out. They put a pyramid of diamonds exists somewhere, and they put some UV light on it, and it just glows like a club. Ooh. So if I was rich, all right. So scientists also tested the diamond at some point, and they've attributed the red glowing, to boron, which is an impurity within the diamond that reacts to UV light. Right. So scientific explanation. But it's said that blue, especially in diamond colors in ancient India, were said to have cursing elements as well as healing properties, other ones. So in 2005, the Smithsonian, who was the current holder of the diamond, keep guardians, the American people technically own it. The Smithsonian published a year-long computer-aided geometry research, which officially acknowledged that the Hope Diamond is, in fact, part of the stolen French blue crown jewel. So they know for sure, based on early sketches of the actual French blue before it, was set and everything, that it is most likely the exact same diamond. It's just been recut. I imagine there's this whole world of subterfuge and surreptitious and surrounding jewels already. But these jewelers who get to go around being so dodgy and cutting up stuff again and be like, yes, this is an entirely different diamond. But yeah, that's the curse of the Hope Diamond. It's now the Smithsonian. I myself, when I was a kid, we went to Smithsonian a lot as a cheapo school trip. And I think I spent a half an hour at least looking at the Hope Diamond. It spins around on this cute little circle. And it's just really, it's a gorgeous setting at the moment. I like it. I don't like it as much as the original French blue setting with the sunburst. What it supposedly looked like. Sweet to look at. Oh my god, that was so much better. Right now, it basically looks like the diamond from Titanic in the film.
It really makes me want to start some kind of extravagant luxury service for rich people. Like a crystal healing workshop, but with
diamonds.
Super expensive stuff like diamonds and rubies. When I was a kid, maybe I was like 8 or 9 years old, maybe a little bit older, I kind of discovered this whole thing about crystal healing.
Yeah.
And someone got me a book on it, and I read like the whole thing, like cover to cover, learning everything about it. I enjoyed categorizing stuff at that age. Like, that's why I like things like Pokemon and things that were grouped in colors and elements and had specific attributes or powers. It all, crystals worked. It fitted into that template of stuff that I enjoyed. We just need
diamonds now.
Exactly. But I would be reading through it like, rose quartz, a carnelian, citrine, amethysts, and they're great for your throat chakra or your nervous system or something. And I was always like, why isn't there a page on diamonds and rubies and sapphires? Just because they're expensive doesn't mean they get missed out of the precious stones.
Yeah, and they really do have a lot of healing properties as far as what
they had chalk.
In lore.
They had chalk in this book as a healing crystal.
The problem with New Age stuff is just like, it's very accessible. It's for everybody. It's for poor people, everybody.
Yeah.
But they're definitely, if you're going to believe in crystals, you got to believe in diamonds. It's just because you're too poor.
Just because they're expensive doesn't mean they get missed out. And I'm sure you can find somewhere a list of the powers of diamonds.
So if you want to help us start a diamond hospital, you can feel free to forward and send us your diamonds.
Diamond Workshop with Violet Star. QVC. Selling my diamond ones.
But whether it's cursed or not, to this day, the Smithsonian receives letters, people more than willing and happy to take the diamond off their hands to stop the curse of America.
1900s, I think I've learned from this that the early 1900s, people were really into the idea of the curse. Curses
There's all the
sold
curses stuff.
newspapers. They sold stories.
They're into that, and they're also discovering so many of these old things that on the human consciousness and in the forefront is, what don't we know about all this stuff that was here before us? And is it going to affect us now by rifling through it? It's that idea, like you said earlier, like that idea of you want to respect the dead, but science needs to learn. It's that
occult
balance.
was really trendy.
Oh, and the cult was super in.
Mythical stuff. People were all over that.
But yeah, mine was more like a deathless catalog than an actual story.
So was mine, though, to an extent. I think we both had kill lists. And I think we've got to grips with some famous stories that you don't necessarily...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were so overkill to me that I'd never, ever bothered really taking an interest in the, Curse of the Pharaohs or the Hope Diamond. I just kind of knew about it. I'd heard that it had been cursed, but I never really... Even as someone who studied archaeology, I still wasn't... Even though I'd watched so many documentaries, it never really soaked in or imprinted on me, So it's kind of cool to have investigated it and
actually have a look at these things.
Even though I'm very skeptical about the curses in these instances, it's still like, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to figure it out. So what is your overall verdict on curses in general?
I totally believe in curses, but I don't think I chose a good example to convince anyone.
I think we both picked ones that we don't
believe in.
Yeah, I'm very, very skeptical. And if someone said to me, actually, there was a curse, it really, really, truly was a real curse of Tutankhamun's tomb, even then I would say it only affected Lord Carnarvon.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the other deaths, were connected to it.
Unless all of Cairo was burning.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that a curse was released. Whereas, I've said some things, and things happen sometimes where, words are powerful, I believe. And
exactly. In fact, that's what I was going to say. I don't necessarily believe in curses, but I believe in the power of words.
You can say something that can fuck someone's whole life
and in
up.
the power of belief of words.
Yeah.
So, if
Sticks and stones.
If you think you've been cursed, or you believe that there is a curse, then bad things kind of manifest, or you at least
focus on the negative.
Yeah, you focus on the negative, you can only see the negative, and you interpret the negative events differently as a result of some bad vibes or a curse or something.
Basically, yeah, that's how I feel. I'm trying to work on my curses working. I'm just going to curse a bunch of people, see if it works. I'm going to use this ones you gave me.
Exactly, guys. Write them down, make a note.
Do you need a curse lifted? Would you like to send us a diamond to try?
Yeah, diamond workshops, curse workshops, where we can arrange it all from here. Congrats if you've made it this far, made it to the end. Actually, we made a first attempt of recording this episode a while ago. This was actually meant to be the second episode that we ever recorded, but we hadn't figured out our format at that point. It was a mess. And I was like, great, I do an episode on curses and the episode fails. I almost felt for a second, have I cursed the episode by picking curses? But we did it again. We started afresh with lots of positive vibes and good magic. So I promise this will not be an unlucky episode, even if I've been a bit low energy. Maybe you've been cursed. Yeah. Maybe you put a curse upon someone. Maybe you live in a town with a weird curse. Maybe you work in a museum and you accidentally smashed an ancient funeral urn, thereby unleashing an ancient curse upon the world. We would like to know.
Yeah.
Email us. Email us your stories and comments. The address is
worldwearypodcast@gmail.com.
Rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah, on iTunes or wherever podcasts.
Check out our social media stuff.
Insta,
we
Twitter.
should have a website up and running, so check that out. So, yeah, until next time, goodbye.
Bye.